Hello, good morning everyone, and welcome to UXcelerate's newest series, the CXO Stories. I am Fatima Hussain and I will be your host for today. The CXO Stories bring successful leaders forward to talk about their journey to leadership and how they persevered when times were tough, giving you key insights into becoming a better leader. Through their journey, learn how to transform the fears and limitations that are holding you back. Because after all, the expert in anything was once a beginner. Vaishali is an entrepreneur, speaker, and equity proponent. She is the co-founder of Merxius, a deep tech company which is at the forefront of virtual augmented reality innovation in India. Vaishali is also the founding team member of Gold Collar Inc., an AI startup in the manufacturing sector, accelerated by Silicon Valley-based The Alchemist. She is an alumnus of Le Martiniere, Osmania University, Indian School of Business, and Goldman Sachs 10,000 Women, just to name a few. Vaishali has been a TEDx speaker multiple times and panelist at various business conferences on technology, innovation, diversity, inclusion, entrepreneurship, and life lessons. She also mentors aspiring entrepreneurs and has chaired committees on women in entrepreneurship and technology. Vaishali has been conferred awards for her leadership by the Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry and Women Economic Forum, among others. And with that, now I hand it over to Vaishali to tell us about herself and her journey.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Fatima. Very kind of everybody here to have invited me. I'm so happy to be able to, speak today with all of you, and I hope that there will be takeaways that you will have from this session. We'll have a open Q&A at the end, so any questions you have, please shoot. This is sort of like my version of Ask Me Anything. So yeah, I think I just want to quickly give a little bit of insight to you about my journey so far. So I've been an entrepreneur my entire career, so to speak. So for the last decade, I started a tech company based out of Hyderabad, India, which focused on deep technologies, specifically extended reality, which for those of you who don't know is an umbrella term for augmented, virtual, and mixed reality. It's been the buzzword for several years now. I mean, it's interesting actually that the technology existed way back in the 1950s. And it's only come into cognizance today because of the advancement that we've had in the hardware, in the software, and the ecosystem which can support a technology like this. So we've been working with extended reality for several years now. We've worked in the enterprise space, and my entire learnings have sort of been pretty much on the job. When I started out, I did not have mentors, and I'll come to this later, how important it is to have, good mentors in your life. So when we started out, we basically had pretty much nobody to guide us or, give us the sort of the ropes or the idea around what is it that you're getting into. We were, I started with a co-founder. We were college friends, and both of us were first generation entrepreneurs. We started out just with a technology background, with stars in our eyes, with the technology obsession that a lot of engineers have, which is, oh, this tech is amazing, it's so powerful, we have to do something with it, we can change the world with it. So that's how we started. So there were a lot of interesting learnings along the way, a lot of times, and in fact this is something that I learned very early on. A lot of the troubles and the challenges that come along, at those times, and this is something that I've done in my personal life as well, I kind of tend to become very insular, and I feel like, I can do this and I can sort this out on my own, and we're the only ones who have this problem, attitude like that. But the truth is that when you actually open up, when you start meeting people, in your peer group, fellow entrepreneurs, people who've been there, done that, people from across the world, not just in your city or in your sector, it becomes very apparent that we're not the only ones. I mean, this is something, this special snowflake symptom is something that all of us, I think, have somewhere, where we just imagine that we're unique and everything that we experience is unique. It is true in one way, and I'll come to that as well a little later down the line. But the idea that this is only happening to me and I have to sort it out, that's not entirely true. I've experienced that a lot of the things that we went through, challenges that we had, were actually challenges that a lot of people have gone through, especially other entrepreneurs in our space. And the more we started interacting with people, the more we started engaging with people outside of our insular ecosystem, the more we started realizing that we can actually learn from other people's mistakes. I mean, they say that it's wise to learn from your own mistakes, but true wisdom is learning from other people's mistakes. And in fact, this is also where mentors come in. Something that I realize, and today I'm so fortunate, I have some amazing mentors in my life. But that's something that I would say is important, irrespective of whether you have a startup or whether you're working for another company, whether you're thinking of doing something on your own, whether you're a freelancer consultant. It's always important to have mentors, and they could be just people who you connect with, whether they're in the same space as you, whether you connect with them at a personal level, whether they've had a similar career trajectory as you. But it's really important. And I think for those of you who are working in a corporate setup, it's so much easier, I would think, to find the right people, because you have, for example, the immediate people you report to as the immediate role model, so to speak, and then you would meet people within your larger corporate setup as well. So I think it would be interesting to start looking for finding a few of these people and make them mentors if you haven't already, and then of course passing it on, so having mentees as well, because I believe that at each point in life there's someone we can learn from and someone who can learn from us. So there's no idea around, okay, let me wait, and it's not about sharing gyan or getting gyan. It's about, at each time, we've been through things. Somebody else who's just starting out might learn from my experiences. I would learn from somebody who's done something already. So that's something that I learned, through the journey we've had. We were bootstrapped for the longest time, and then we were, of course, working in the services space. So we're trying to figure out extended reality services for enterprise. And we worked across sectors. We worked with the army. We worked with, marketing, real estate, retail, all of that. And then we finally found our niche in the manufacturing space. And then we turned into a products company, which again has its own set of learnings. And of course, that's still ongoing. And that's actually when the Boeing company invested in us, which was brilliant validation. It was a strategic investment, and that of course changed the trajectory of what we were doing. We turned from a services to a bootstrap services company to a funded product company. So I think that was interesting as well. And I think throughout this this last decade, some of the learnings that I've had, I genuinely believe that it's really opened up my mind, the kind of perspectives, the kind of exposure each time. And while I was working, I did a lot of programs constantly, whether it was with Stanford, whether it was with the UN, whether it was with Goldman Sachs, ISB. And each time I realized that every time you think that you know something, you'll be surprised, and your thoughts and your ideas about what you know, what you don't know are challenged. I think that's amazing, because we're constantly learning, and that's something that I think, this sense of curiosity, this sense of questioning, that's something that I've always had. I think growing up, so I'm from a Marwadi family. For those of you who are not aware, it's a trader community from Rajasthan, and of course very entrepreneurial in spirit, but very conservative as well. And growing up, when I was constantly faced with age-old ideas and traditions around the way things have been done, the status quo. I think I was always, and of course, the environment was such that I constantly was able to question and challenge things that I was not okay with. For example, growing up, all of my siblings and extended family, we tended to take up commerce or economics or arts as our further studies, and then get into those lines of business. Engineering was sort of unheard of, or going into science in general. And and it's not that I had any particular affinity at the time, but just the idea that why has this not been done, and is this not allowed, and and the idea behind, hey, I'm good at this, and and I enjoy these subjects, so why can't I take it up as a career. So being able to do that, and and of course that did pave the way for a lot of others in the family as well to start taking that up. But the idea that this is something that has been going on, but it's not necessarily the rule of law. I mean, you can change, and that change starts with you. So it's just a very small example, but it's just sort of like it came about because I questioned the status quo, and this is something that I've seen in every phase of my life thus far, in different areas. It's sort of like, if you're not entirely sure of something, or if you're not entirely comfortable with something, go ahead and question it. I mean, for all you know, it's not that it's written in stone, and even stone gets changed over time. Water can change stone, and so the idea is, hey, change is possible, and if you're not okay with something, then go ahead and at least make that effort to question it, challenge it, and then be the change you want to see around you. And that's something that has really worked for me throughout, because I've constantly done that. There are opportunities and moments where I have felt that, oh my God, this is not going to work, or what if it doesn't work? What if they say no? And then I've thought, hey, if they say no, and and I've tried everything that I can, then it's fine. I mean, I'm anyways where I already am. I'm back to square one. But if I don't try at all, if I don't even ask, then there is no change going to happen, right? And I think that's something that's just pushed me to push out of my comfort zones, to be able to get out there and and get uncomfortable, and try to bring about something different, whatever it may be. And another thing I think along the same lines that I realized was, sometimes, and I think most times it's true, and I don't know if how many of you will relate to this, but we all have this sense of questioning ourselves, having this imposter syndrome, where you're constantly like, I'm not good enough, I'm not doing this the right way. You're questioning yourself. If you take a decision, you're like, maybe I should have done that better, second guessing. Or after you have a conversation with someone, or maybe after this call, I'll be like, oh, I should have answered that better. Oh, I could have said that as well. Well, you know what? It's true. I could have, you could have, but at the end of the day, it's already done. It's done. It's happened, and there's nothing you can do to change, because we can't go back in time. At least we've not learned to yet. I believe that could still at some point happen if time is linear. That's again questionable. But the idea that anyway, we can't go back and change anything. So just it's okay. You've done your best. You've done what you could, and take that learning and apply it next time. And this is something that I realize has been so handy for me, because for the largest part, and it's actually a very recent lesson, for the longest time I would, and being a CXO, it has so much glamour attached to it, right? People would just be like, oh, you run your own company, or you're in the management and this and that, and it's so fancy. Hey, beyond all of that, the basic thing that one has to look at is, if you're the one that the buck is stopping with, and you're the one taking decisions, at the end of the day, the idea with taking decisions is you have to live with the consequences, whatever they may be. And when one takes decisions, it's never that you purposely take a decision which is wrong or bad. Decisions are right or wrong only in hindsight. But when we take them, we're taking them based on our knowledge at the time, based on our gut, based on discussions with other people. The idea is you're sort of taking the best decision that you can given the circumstances, and how it turns out is beyond control, beyond your control. And second guessing and constantly going back and forth on decision making is honestly just a complete waste of time, and it's toxic, because you're just sort of going insane, second guessing. Because at the end of the day, and this is something that this lesson I actually learned after my father passed away a couple of years ago, because I was his primary caregiver at that time, and and there was this whole series of decisions that I was taking to, for his care, which included the first surgery, which included, the second surgery, and in my head, I was taking the best decisions that I could. I remember for the first surgery, I basically interviewed like a bunch of doctors. I did, and I went completely crazy on this. I made Excel sheets. I made comparison tables. I meticulously documented the entire progression of the illness and everything. And then I took decisions based on the information that I had. And at the end of the day, you can consult with people outside, you can consult with family, but nobody really knows the situation as well as you do, right? And so I took the best decisions that I could, and one thing led to the other. And then he had an infection after the first surgery. We had to get him operated again. It was an open heart surgery, and he just didn't survive the second surgery. And for a long time after his death, I remember I was constantly, I ran through, I couldn't sleep for many nights. I was like running through the whole thing in my head, the entire 6 months, constantly thinking, hey, could I have done that better? Should I have chosen this guy? Could I have, taken that decision then? And I drove myself insane. Till, one day, my uncle, he actually, I remembered this story. He said it to me when I cremated dad. He gave me the story of Yama. He's an Indian deity of death. This is the version I've heard, and I'm sure there are other versions, but the story goes like this. There was this small bird, in a forest somewhere, and the bird was sitting away one day in a tree and chirruping away, and then Yama came to that area and looked at the bird and laughed. And the bird got really scared, and the bird was thinking, oh my God, the god of death just looked at me and laughed, I'm going to die. So the bird prayed to its gods, and Garuda appeared, who's another deity. And the bird prayed to Garuda and said, oh my God, please save me, because Yama saw me and smiled at me and laughed, and I think I'm going to die. So can you please do something, save me, protect me? And Garuda was like, of course I will. So he took the bird on his back, and they flew all the way to the Himalayas. And, Garuda found some cave high up in the mountains, which had no entry or exit except for the opening. And he put the bird inside that cave, and he he was standing at the entrance as guard. And he was there for an entire day. And then, the next day Yama comes there, and Yama is like, Garuda, move aside, I need to take the dead bird inside. And Garuda was like, what do you mean? He's like, yeah, the bird is dead. And Garuda was like, no, the bird is not dead. How can it be dead? I've been protecting the bird all night long. And then Yama's like, why don't you go and see? And they find that the bird is dead. The bird has died of a cold. And then Yama tells Garuda, I know you did what you could, thinking this is the way you're saving the bird, but actually you helped things happen, and actually you're instrumental to what was anyways going to happen. Because the reason I laughed when I saw that bird in the forest is because I was thinking, I had this vision when I saw the bird that this bird has died of a cold, of the cold, and it's frozen to death, so to speak. And I was thinking, how can this little bird in this tropical forest die of being frozen to death? And that worked out. That happened. Because we can't change destiny, we can't change things in that sense, right? There are certain things which are beyond your control. So Garuda did what he could, but at the end of the day, this was beyond him. The idea here is that, and even with my father, and I connected it, I did what I could, but there's some things which are beyond us, which we can't control, and we just have to let that go. The idea is, if something hypothetically could have been better, it could also have been worse, right? It's the same probability. If I had changed the decisions, and this is sort of like the time paradox as well. If you change something, you go back in time, you can't really, because then you're a different person, and the person you are is because of what you did earlier. So the idea is, hypothetically, again, if something could have been better, it could have been worse. And so coming back to what I was saying about taking decisions and sticking with them, or seeing it through, is because, if you could have done something differently, in your head, you're always looking at, oh, it should have been better, it could have been better, but you know what? It could also have been worse. And so there's no point in questioning yourself. And the idea is, if you think something could have been done differently, which could have been better, just use that lesson, try it the next time. You never know. but there's really no point in sort of sitting around and torturing yourself. And this was something that was a very important lesson for me, because beyond that, it's sort of I just realized this idea of decision fatigue. And you hear about things like Steve Jobs always wore the same clothes, and Mark Zuckerberg is now doing that, and they do it because they don't want to use any of their brain in making decisions around sundry things. And I realized that to a huge level, we think these things are so inconsequential, but in a larger sense, the lesson here would be what decision making is fatiguing, and questioning those decisions is even more fatiguing. And so whatever level you're at, whether you're a CXO, whether you're in management, whether you're even a team lead or working in a team, at each point you are taking decisions, and you're not constantly asking somebody else or asking your boss. And if you're second guessing all of those decisions, you're just wasting time. So this is something that I would definitely put out there. This has helped me now, and I think it's largely also helped me work this imposter syndrome thing that we have. And honestly, I think everybody has it. Everybody I've ever spoken to seems to have had it, or has it, and we have different ways of dealing with it. But the idea is just to figure out, what are the lessons we can keep taking, learning, moving on. The idea of failing fast, the idea of the lean startup idea, where you start a company, you validate it quickly, and then if you have to fail, you fail. It doesn't mean that the purpose of doing all that is that you have to fail. The purpose is, if you fail, then it's best to do it quickly, because then you can move on, take those lessons, and do something better the next time. It's sort of like, if you don't change, if you keep doing the same thing again and again and expect different results, that won't happen. Something needs to change each time. So that's been, I think, a very interesting lesson for me. And I think other than that, one of the major things that has always been part of my psyche, part of the way I deal with things and with people, is that empathy is like my superpower. Again, for the longest time, I thought it was my weakness. I used to be like, oh my God, I'm so empathetic. I'm thinking more about the team. I'm thinking more about the customers. Where am I in all of this? Where's my company? I'm always thinking more about the other person. I should never have gotten into running a company. Maybe business is not my forte, blah, blah, blah. But you know what? The idea behind empathy is, it is a superpower, and I call it a superpower because it gives you the ability to be able to look at the situation from the other person's point of view, which is so important. If you can imagine a twister, or a tornado, it's twirling, right? When you look at it from the top, and I want all of you to just do this right now, twirl your finger and look at it from the top. What direction do you see it going in? It's, for me, it's anti-clockwise right now, right? And then the same thing, and I'm not changing my finger, if I look at it from the bottom, it's going clockwise. It's the same thing, I haven't changed it, but just the point of view is what has changed, right? From the top and from the bottom. And that's essentially everything in communication. I may be looking at the same situation with a very different lens than somebody else. And the ability to understand even some part of what they're thinking or what they're going through actually makes the conversation more productive, and helps you arrive at the same page faster and better and more efficiently than it's my way or the highway approach. And I feel that has strengthened me in conversations, communication with not just customers or with investors or with the team, but also sometimes myself, because sometimes you're thinking of a situation in a particular way, and you have to stop and think, is this the only way to look at this? Is there another way that I could look at this? It's the same thing with the challenging situation, for example, right? You would look at it, and the first thing would be, oh my God, like this is just, this is the worst that has happened. And then, like they say, every cloud has a silver lining. It's not just theoretical. It's about the perception. You have to look for that silver lining. You have to define it. You have to find it. The glass half empty, half full thing. It really is true. It's about the way you look at a situation and change it. I was reading this really interesting thing, about the Nordic region. So they have, I believe, 2 months of winter, which is in complete darkness, right? They don't have the sun rising at all. And that period is, for anybody else in the Western hemisphere, in the northern region. And they found this, they did research around the way people are reacting. The rates of suicide and depression are much higher in the Western countries than in the Nordic regions, right? And so they wanted to understand why, because the situation was similar. And then they found that the way that the Nordic people treat the situation is they look forward to it. They look forward to those 2 months where, they're at home, where they're able to, spend time with their families, or whether they're able to, do something new, spend time with themselves, learn something new. And then they also, and not just that, they look forward to the point of time when that period ends, and things open up again, and the sun's rising again, and you have daylight, and they look forward and they plan for what they would do when that happens, like outdoor sports or learning something new outdoors, forming groups, clubs. The idea is that the whole thing is seen in a way which is positive. And and that was so interesting, because that is the sole reason why the rates of depression and suicide are lesser in the Nordic regions as compared to the Western countries, and which is fascinating, because at the end of the day, it's all about the mindset. So that's something that that I'm still learning, and that I'm still going through. But I think it's really helped change a lot of things in just sort of turning around how you look at a situation. And sometimes, and I know this sounds so difficult or so theoretical, but the idea is, and we'll fail constantly, we'll miserably fail, and there'll be times when you're literally wallowing in so much self-pity, you're allowed all the ice creams and all the the movies that you want, but the idea is to push yourself again, out of your comfort zone, to push yourself, to force yourself to look at something differently, because the only person who can do that for yourself is you. And especially when there are challenging situations. This is again something that that I've experienced, where you want to do something and the whole world, you feel like it's you against the world, right? Nobody's supporting you, and nobody's understanding you, and you're literally like, if I do this, I'm on my own. At those times, and this beautiful quote that I remember, I think Will Smith said, where he's like, and in the movie Pursuit of Happiness, it's also that beautiful movie. If you guys haven't seen it, you should. It's a true story, by the way, so it's that much more inspirational. So anyway, he says that when you're judged, when other people tell you no, or they say you can't do this, they're basically judging you by the extent of their own potential, because that's what they know, and they're judging you by their potential, not yours, which is so profoundly true, because at the end of the day, we don't know what we don't know. If I've been or if I've been inside a well my entire life, I don't know what's outside, so I won't know if what's happening outside is good or bad, or I like it or I won't like it, because I just don't know. And so I think that's something that's left a deep impact on me as well. That at the end of the day, it's not that you have to hate people who are saying you can't do this or you can't do that. It's just that's what they know, so from their experience, from their understanding, from what they've been able to do or not been able to do, that's what they understand. That's okay, because they're different from you, right? This is where the unique bit does come in. We are unique. Honestly, like if you just think about it, there has been and in this day and age, there has been nobody with the exact same situations, with the exact same personality, with the exact same genes, with the exact same time or point in time as you. You're literally the only one in that sense. And even everything that you do, this moment, and this is something that I have to share. It's this book I'm reading, but I'm not advertising the book, no plug there, but it's this line, right? Ichigo Ichie. It's the Japanese concept of making the most of every moment, and it's so true, because this moment, for example, where I'm talking here, this won't come again. I mean, I've given so many talks, so to speak, and we could even recreate the situation where it's the exact same people, on the panel. I'm wearing the same thing. It's I'm saying the same things, but it won't be the same, because the moment has passed. It's already different, so that'll be a new moment. So the idea, and this is something that I'm now trying to apply in my life, the idea of Ichigo Ichie, where you make the most of every moment, because honestly, it won't come again, and life is really, and especially I think last year has shown that to so much, to so many of us, that at the end of the day, life is unpredictable. It could be short. And what is it that we're really doing? What is it that we're working towards? I think that last year has had that really valuable lesson for all of us. And so it's, I think this is something that I'm working with right now. It's brilliant. So I would just say that these are some of the lessons that I've had. For me, questioning the status quo, being the change that I want to see around me, standing up for something that I believe in, even if that means I have to stand out, it's fine. Being able to go beyond my comfort zones and explore new territory, because I have to explore my own potential. Nobody else can do that for me. And listening to what other people have done or not done is not going to help, because the extent of their potential is different from mine. Doesn't mean I'm better or worse, but it's just different. And not second guessing, and just sticking with whatever decisions that we do take. The important thing is taking decisions. This is something that my mentors have really inculcated in me, right? They're like, this is the thing, like you have to take decisions. You can't procrastinate taking decisions. At the end of the day, what has to happen will happen. Ke sara sara. But taking decisions and then sticking with them is the sort of the key thing. I think I just want to close with this other thing that I want to share. There's this book that I read. Like, I try to read it all the time, and I read like one couplet or something every night. It's the Tao Te Ching. You have many versions of it. The one I have is by this guy, Stephen Mitchell. But the idea in Tao Te Ching is this Chinese ancient, it's called the Book of the Way. The way is, I think, depending on how you look at it, it could be God, it could be the universe, it could be the laws of the universe. But there's some beautiful things that this book talks about. And I just want to read a couple of lines. So one of the lines, it says, and I'm equating the master to, any of us, right? You can call yourself a leader. When the master governs, the people are hardly aware that he exists. Next best is a leader who is loved. Next one who is feared. The worst is one who is despised. The master doesn't talk, he acts. When his work is done, the people say, amazing, we did it all by ourselves. I think that just, for me, sums up the idea of, the external idea that we have of leaders. And there are many other gems in this book, which I would love to share later, but you guys should pick it up as well. And I hope that there were takeaways from this, and I'm happy to get into conversation with Leela now. Any questions that you guys have, please do share, and